Okay, let's begin. Om
Gurave
Gurave Namah.
Namaha
Om
Om
Om Gurave
Gurave
Gurave Namah.
Namaha
Namaha.
Om
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 Gurave
Gurave
Namah.
Namaha.
Namaha
Om
Om
Om Gurave
Gurave
Namaha.
Namaha
Om
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 Gurave
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 Namah.
Namaha.
Namaha
Om
Om Gurave
Gurave
Namah.
Namaha.
Namaha
Om
Om
Gurave
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 Namah.
Namaha.
Namaha
Om
Om
Om Gurave
Gurave
Gurave Namah.
Namaha
Namaha.
Om
Om
Gurave
Gurave
Namah.
Namaha.
Om
Om Gurave
Gurave
Namah.
Namaha.
Namaha
Om
Om Gurave
Gurave
Namaha.
Namaha
Om
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 Gurave
Namah.
Namaha.
Namaha
Om
Om
Om Gurave
Gurave
Namah.
Namaha.
Namaha.
Okay, everyone, welcome. Hi, James. Okay, now maybe we should just mute ourselves if that's okay, because it can be a little bit distracting. Okay, let me just start the slideshow. Now, I can see a lot of uh, newer faces. Now, what I need to remind everybody is that you may want to go on the YouTube channel for figuring out what we've covered previously, because I know Jane, you're new, um, and James, I'm not too worried because he already has he's been studying Jyotish for quite a few years. So there is a YouTube channel which is on the Facebook group, so you can just we've done like 10 sessions, so you can just go through it, yeah, and it'll give you an idea. So anyway, today we will be doing we did last week, or was it the week before? I forget. Everything is a bit of a blur, really, as is the whole of 2020. So we did last time the kendras, and we which I'm going to expand on in next few sessions, because the whole we'll take at least a good chunk of 5 to 6 sessions only on each of the houses, and how each of the houses then get classified, like as in kendras, that is angular houses, then they get into upchaya houses, which is a 3 6 9 and 12. So there's a lot of kind of classifications of houses. Then there is the trikona houses, which is like 1 5 9. So the first house is a kendra, that is an angular house, as well as a uh, you know uh, trikona, which is a trinal house. So as we go along, at the end of this session, and we'll take example charts. So anyway, let's begin. I'm also going to today introduce, I don't know if I did cover last time, but the karaka for each of the houses. That is, each of these houses have a particular signification, of the houses. They are not um each of the they have a definitive planet which signifies or is responsible by default for that house. So irrespective of whether you have planets there or not, it doesn't matter, because it's true across the board for everybody, in everybody's chart, no matter what the ascendant is. The For everyone, the sun is the karaka, or the ascendant is I mean the surya or sun is a karaka for the first house, which is the ascendant. So that it doesn't matter what ascendant you are in, whether it's sun ruled or Mars ruled. It's immaterial whether you have planets there or not. It's the karaka. So that's a very important concept, and which I'm going to keep repeating throughout the course of as we go through all the bhavas or the houses. Is everybody okay with that? Yeah. Okay,
Oh,
so here I'm going to also introduce a little bit about the first house, which is the sun. The second house is Jupiter, the Karaka, even though the ruler is Venus. Occasionally we'll take Venus, but it's predominantly Jupiter. And for the third house, it is Mars. Now, we will come today to the third house, so I'm not even going to say, oh, why is it Mars, and I will give you the reasons why it's the third house. In Vedic is the Karaka is Mars, and for the fourth house it is predominantly the moon, and Venus is also one of the karakas, but it's a secondary karaka. It's not the first one. And for the fifth house, it is Jupiter. So again, like I said, I'm going to keep repeating this, and as I go along. Now, this little bit of signification, it's going to give you a lot of things to think about. Like, for example, the Aries sign of Aries, it has each of the houses, in the Naisargika, that is, it's in the natural Kal Purusha, the natural, the Vitruvian man, each of the signs get mapped by default to each of the houses, and so Aries, and signifies, and it's also the first house, it signifies your body, your head, your brain, and the significations of it is the activity, initiative, youthfulness. So those are the significations of the first house or Aries. And again, the doshas, you can kind of accept that this is a kind of an Ayurvedic concept. We've gone through the gunas and the doshas. So here it is very strong in Pitta because it is a very strong fire sign. So you have to bear in mind of that. Similarly, well, not so similarly, but Taurus is like a second house. Someone's mic is on. Would you mind muting, guys? Okay, please mute if you can. Thank you. Lovely. So, yeah. So the second house by default is in the Naisargika thing is not just the second house, but it's also the house of Taurus. And the Karaka for the second house is Jupiter. Remember, I said we have rules. So much as you would like to think it is Venus, but it's not Venus. So the Karaka is distinctively different to the actual house. And even though it's the house of Taurus ruled by Venus, but the Karaka is Jupiter. And the signification of that is about comforts, persistence, stability. Second house is a beautiful house. It's also called a Hari Bhava. So it's a very, very strong house. It's a very stable house because ultimately it is the house of, as we shall go, as we will see in detail and in depth. The second house is a lot of significations are there. It's also the house of our income and money and wealth and things like that. So again, the other one of the significations of, in terms of bodily significations, is that it's tall, long, face, nose, eyes, mouth, and throat. So these are all the significations of the second house. And it's dosha by Ayurvedic is kapha. That means they tend to be a little bit like relaxed, lackadaisiacal, a little bit like kapha temperament. Unlike Aries, which is very strong pitta, very go, 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 that's a very fire, a very strong fire. Then we come to Gemini, which is much more well proportioned. Remember, the analogy of Gemini is all about the symbolism, is about the twins, and it's the couples mating, and that's the Vedic signification. So, And so often the third house is also it's the throat, the bronchial tubes, the upper chest, shoulder, clavicle area, and trachea. And it's all to do with like the throat in terms of like, the internal mechanism, the air element. Again, we are talking about when we are talking of the bronchial tubes, air passing through, and the way we breathe. And duality and communications is a big signification of the third house. Again, it can have its because it's Mercury ruled Gemini and the third house, but the karaka is Mars. So again, the ruler is Gemini's ruler is Mercury, but the karaka of the third house is Mars, Mangal. So that's why it is all three mixed doshas, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, and the guna is Tamas. Again, the gunas there are few schools of thought. We won't spend so much time on gunas. We will again revisit it at a later date as we are doing this now. So I'm not going to go too much into the gunas. The Cancer sign is a fourth house. It's thick body, chest, cavity, heart, lungs, esophagus. So if you have, let's say, in the fourth house, or in the sign of Cancer, a lot of malefics there, then there's a high chance that you may have like heart issues, lungs, and esophagus. So all that is connected. And it shows the signification of the fourth house of the sign of Cancer is emotions and feelings, and it's all about change, reluctant change. But ultimately it is, remember, bear in mind, it's also an angular house, the fourth house. It is also the house of sort of, it's a what do you say, Chara Rashi. Chara Rashi is, it is a movable sign. So it is all about the change, so that's a big a factor to it. And it is Kapha and Vata. So Vata, because sometimes it can kind of do too much, because it's ruled by the moon is like the fastest moving luminary, fastest moving body among all the planetary pantheon. So it's kind of like, super fast. It's here, there, 1 minute, it covers a lot of ground. So Vata can get a little bit afflicted. Vata is all about like, our breathing and things like that. And Kapha, because again, they can just fall and into a kind of a slump, like a relaxed state, and not worry too much about doing much. Then the fifth, or the Leo house, is large body, stomach, abdomen, spine, and its significations are authority, domination, and power. So wherever Leo is in the chart, in your chart, you will want all this. If you're Leo, if you're Scorpio Lagna and Leo is in your 10th house, then you will want this authority, domination, power. There is no two ways about it. It's very strong Leo in the 10th house. And ultimately it is Pitta, because it is, the dosha is Pitta because it is Ayurveda. It is to do with the Ayurvedic, fire of the Leo, so that is very strong fire. And it is Rajas because it is always constantly wanting to achieve, do things. Remember, authority, and all that. Virgo is again one of the signs, which is medium body. It rules the loins, lower intestines, the waist, bowels, and its kartatva is, significations is analysis and details, is perfection. There is no one who can improve and improvise and keep practicing and keep redoing and redoing as a Virgo, because their sense of detail is absolutely beautiful. So that's a very strong Virgo trait. It falls under Virgo, and the dosha is Vata, Kapha, and the guna is Tamas. Then we come to Libra, which is a signification is medium body, lower abdomen, kidney, urinary tract, urethra. It's all about harmonizing balance, partnerships, markets, and marketplaces. That's a huge significance because the whole ethos of Libra is all about balancing and harmonizing, and very strong Vata, Kapha, Pitta. So we'll quickly go through these. Scorpio is again private parts, anus. They tend to be short and slender because of a rulership of Mars. And the mystery, transformations, occult, hidden elements, they are all part of the Scorpio picture. It's all part of the Scorpio. I mean, there is no sign that transforms as much as a Scorpio. No, 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 not even a Mars ruled Aries. So this is the only one which will do that. So you have to bear that in mind. Sagittarius is strong, brilliant. Oh, Pitta Kapha is a Scorpio trait because you see the other ruler, Mars and Ketu, both are very strong Agni, and they both rule Scorpio. So the Pitta Kapha element then comes in. And also, because it's a water sign, so it's, they tend to have water signs are a little bit more like they can fall into these patterns of like, wanting to relax and not do anything, not move, so the kapha element, the water element, can get quite strong. So that is the hence the pitta kapha. Sagittarius is strong, brilliant body, well formed thighs, sciatica nerves, walking ability. Often you'll notice Sagittarians will have very strong, well formed thighs, very lean, muscular, very strong. And the indications, significations of Sagittarius is ideality. They are very ideal about dharma and all things to do with dharma, freedom, justice, war to do with ideals. So all that falls under Sagittarius. Capricorn tends to, again, it's pitta because it's a very strong fire sign. Then we come to Capricorn, which is large body, knees. It rules patella, bones, skeleton, knees. They are all part of the Capricorn, even though the signifier of bones and skeleton is predominantly sun, which is a distinct difference compared to the sign. So please note that. I'm not mixing up the planets. That is, it's ruled by Saturn, but that is distinctively different to the signification of bones when we go into the planetary significations for which planet rules which body part. So that's distinctly different. But by and large, Capricorn does rule bones and signifies bone, skeleton, knees. And it is definitely, it's all about practicality, ambition, structures, setting up huge corporate structures, institutions. They all also fall under Capricorn. And they are very Vata Kapha, so there's a high strongness to them, and hence the vata and kapha, because they also can be a little bit kind of relaxed and wanting to take a break. Aquarius is medium sized, calves, ankles, shins, shanks, and they often suffer from heart diseases, which is, I guess, because it's a mirror opposite of to Leo. And they often have blood circulation issues. And the significations are originality, being a maverick, knowledge, and friendships. And again, Vata, because ruled by Rahu and Shani, which is very strong Vata. Then Pisces is medium body and feet. Where your feet goes, it's the 12th house, it's a house of ultimate giving up, So it is about universal compassion, love, self-sacrificing. Remember, in Pisces, Venus exalts. So there's a very strong signification of self-sacrificing, unconditional, universal love and compassion. So these are the generally by Brihad Parashara Hora Shastra, which is the Bible of for Vedic learning, Vedic astrological learning. Now I'm going to, I don't need to go through that, but we can, if anybody has a doubt, you can look into this Mool Trikona signs. We've done this so many times, but I keep adding it so that it gets absorbed in. And again, we did this last time, exaltations, Mool Trikona, and debility, the failure of it. Um, you can take a screen grab of this. It's good to have know these degrees because that's very helpful, when you are kind of figuring out the charts. Now the places in a board. Now I don't know if we did this one time, but I'm going to repeat this because it's going to have a lot of when we do a horary, and it's going to be very, very helpful. Now the sun, or Ravi, it's another name for Surya, rules devalaya or temples, churches, and the Shiva Linga, as you can see here. The sun has got very strong connections with all this. So when we talk about the horary, or when we do sort of like when we are figuring out which place to live near, and if you have a strong sun, you will want, living close to kind of a temple is very beneficial. These are definitely the significations for the sun, the temples, places of worship. For the moon, it's strong jala. Jala is water element. Resorts and beaches, they all come under the purview of the moon. Mars, Mangala is Vani, near fire. So kitchen, furnaces. Now you have to bear in mind, like for example, cooks, professional chefs, all of that. You may think like, wow, that's moon rule, but hang on, it is actually predominantly Mangal, Mars rule, because in the kitchen there are two things you always use: a knife and fire. You cannot
Mm.
cook without fire. And there is an element of the moon that comes in, but it's predominantly the Mars. Hi, yes, any questions? Hello? No? Okay. um so
Sorry.
yeah, so the Mangal is because it rules cooking and fire and things like that. So very strong, very professional chefs often have a very strong Mangal. It may be Mangal in the fourth house. So you have to be, so that's a little bit of a divergence compared to the Western. Then we have Mercury. Mercury is like the prince. He wants to play. So Krida, playgrounds, gardens, and all that comes under the purview of Mercury. And Jupiter is the treasury, is the financier, it's the bank, it's the business. But business in terms of like finances and consulting, that's Jupiter, right? That's Guru. Then Venus is all about the beds, beautiful linens and silk white linens and all, is under a Venus purview. And hospitals and massages and clubs and recreations. In India, films are often launched, as in they are premiered always on Fridays. I don't know if it's true for even the Western. I think it is true. It's premiered on Fridays, which is ruled by Venus. Yeah. So you see how subconsciously in the collective, we tend to gravitate towards, because launching films and things all fall under the purview of Venus. So and Friday is ruled by Venus, so it's Venus's day. So again, as you can see that these are all kind of we kind of subliminally know this information. Then Saturn is about dirty places, bathrooms, garbage, and garbage collections, and those are all the purview of Saturn. Okay. can someone tune or turn off their you know yeah, thank you. Please turn off your because it's kind of disturbing. Now, this is a little bit of a difference, which I think I haven't done before. One is the samay or the period or time. And this is a shloka coming from Parashara. And the samay or time, each of the planets rule a particular aspect of time, and this is very important for horary, very important for even, like for example, if you were born, in terms of, let's say you were born on a particular, day of the week. And so Mangal is the overseer of that, right? And if you want to activate that, then you can engage in activities, let's say having a weekly conference, so or things like that are very will help you, in terms of activating the Mars quality. If you have a strong Mars and you want to activate Mars, then by all means arrange things around on on a weekday basis, or even like every day, every other day, and that'll be kind of activate the Mars. Similarly with, let's say, if you want to activate, let's say you are interested, you've got a very strong Jupiter and you want to activate your Jupiter, and you want to, let's say, launch a magazine or something, or a publication. When would you do it? Or you want to launch a newsletter, even better, you want to launch a newsletter, to reach out to all your clients and what's happening. So what would you choose? Would you choose like a week? Well, I would not, definitely not choose a weekday and bombard them with every single day of the week. Their Mars will come fighting at you. So you would not want that. What you would want is maybe like if you have a strong exalted Venus or Venus in own sign, you would want to activate that Venus. So you would want to have maybe a sending out news letter with little like to promote your products, or a little bit of a blurb about your products, maybe bi-weekly, once in 2 weeks, or maybe in a month if you have a strong exalted Jupiter in the 10th house. That is how you're going to use this information. This is very strong. As Jyotishis, we always know this, that sun rules half a year, which is approximately 180 days. Chandra rules a moment, because Chandra is a moon is fast moving. Mangala, which is Mars, rules the weekday. It rules the fire element. So again, this is beyond the Panchang. I haven't done the Panchang with you guys, but Panchang is to do with, the fire. The day of the week you're born is the fire. It gives you the fire to sustain yourself on a body level, on in terms of even wealth. So we have very strong significations of the day of the week you're born. We have a definitive sort of, if you're born on a Thursday, it's very different to somebody who's born on a Saturday ruled by Saturn, right? So that is the purview of Mangal. Then Buddha rules the seasons, the 6 seasons. So if you have a strong Mercury in Gemini and you're a Gemini rising, the seasons are going to affect you. Whatever you do at the break or, start of every season, if you do something consistently, that's going to activate your Mercury. Similarly, Guru, it's Brihaspati or Jupiter. It rules a month, so this is the way, 30 days. So that is how you can activate your Jupiter. Shukra or Venus rules a fortnight, which is 2 weeks. It's obvious because it's like every fortnight we have a full moon, and then the next fortnight we have a new moon, right? So that's kind of like activating the jala, the water element. Again, it's the purview of Chandra and Shukra, so that's kind of interesting. Then Shani, which is Saturn, rules 1 year. So that's really important. You see, 360 days, that's what Shani rules, approximately 1 year, and let's say you want, Shani is strong, sorry, very slow moving. So if you want to do something, which will there are people who do 1 year sadhanas, where they do a particular mantra or a particular spiritual practice which goes on for about a year, right? And that way they are kind of fast forwarding whatever Shani, the karma attached to that Shani or Saturn is in their chart. So that's really, pretty pivotal. Then Rahu rules 8 months, which is 240 days, which is Astamasa. So every 8 months. So if you have a strong Rahu, if you were born in the hour of Rahu, then you would want, and maybe Rahu is your Darakarika, that is spouse significator and significator for your wealth. By all means, activate the Rahu. Engage in activities, launch a ebook every 8 months, a part 1, part 2, part 3, things like that. Similarly with Ketu, it's you have these like 3-month reports, right? They say quarterly reports, remember that? Yeah. So often that is, you're activating Ketu, so that is 3 masa. So if you're, let's say, Sagittarius rising, and you have exalted Ketu in your lagna, it's fantastic. By all means, go ahead, every 3 months launch something which is going to be, create a report or something significant, and that is under the purview of Ketu. So far so good.
So now, is there like a specific day that you need to start from for some of the planets? So like if it says 30 days, do you have to start from a specific day of the week and then 30 days onwards, or is it 30 days from any day of the week?
You can start 30 days from Sankranti. Let's say now, for example, is that Nicole?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now, for example, okay, now we are moving into, January 14th. We move into, the sun moves into the 0 degrees of Capricorn. That's a very auspicious time, okay, to start something, because the sun, remember in the previous, I don't know if you caught on, but previous classes we have referred to, when the sun goes into the sign of Capricorn, it's called 0 degrees Capricorn. It's called Sankranti. Sankranti, the whole of in India, we all celebrate Sankranti because it is the time when we begin the Uttarayana. In fact, the whole festival is called Uttarayana. Uttarayana is the sun's sojourn from Capricorn to Cancer, and it's very auspicious time. So yes, by all means, by and large, if you want to start something in a month, start on a Sankranti. But specifically the Capricorn, 0 degrees Capricorn, which is roughly, check the Drik Panchang, the Indian Almanac website. So they will give you the Sankranti when the sun goes into the 0 degrees Capricorn. And that's a fantastic time to start things. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, lovely. So now we are going to do a little, for those of you who are not familiar, they may want to go back with, the YouTube things, because I've done the names of all the Rashis and the signs and bhavas. So essentially the 12 bhavas, these are the the Sanskrit names. I would really encourage you to use the respective names. You can say first house, second house, it's not a problem, but believe you me, the way you're going to be learning with this, it's going to really be hugely different, because it will change the whatever resonates within you. If you use a Sanskrit name, it's going to change the vibration and your way, the way you process all this knowledge and things like that. It will definitely up your game in terms of Vedic learning I'm talking about. So here, this is the Tanu Bhava. Tanu in Sanskrit literally means how you appear, your it's your body. So we know that the first house is about the body anyway. We are going to come to that. Then the second house is Dhana Bhava, which is, of course, Taurus, the house of Venus. And the third house is Bhatri Bhava. Bhatri is nothing but siblings. So that is the third house. Fourth house is Matri Bhava. Matri is the mother. We know that a fourth house is in Vedic is absolutely, it's connected to the mother. I know in the Western there has been discrepancies whether it's the fourth house or the 10th house, or that sometimes there are certain astrologers who say take 10th house as the house of the mother and the fourth house is the house of the father. But no, not in Vedic. We are very clear. Matri Bhava is mother. Okay, it's the fourth house. Is everybody clear on that?
Yes.
Okay, then the fifth house is the Putra Bhava, which is the house of Leo, and the Karaka, the Karaka is Jupiter. There is no two ways about it. It is the Karaka. The fifth house is Putra, means children. So it's a very important house and one of the Trikona houses. So that is a Putra Bhava. Sixth is the Shatru Bhava. Shatru in Sanskrit literally means enemy. It's people who oppose you, who create. So it's pretty, it's pretty graphic, huh? So that is the signification of the sixth house, and it is the house of Virgo. And the Karaka of the sixth house is, there are two Karakas. One is Mars and another one is Saturn. By and large, Saturn is among most of the Vedic astrologers, they always use Saturn as a Karaka for the sixth house. But I would differ, because of the Vedic tradition I come from, we take Mars. We've been taught to take Mars. By all means, there are times when we do use Saturn. So by all means, take Saturn as well. But it's a secondary Karaka and it's not the primary. The primary Karaka or the significator is Mangal or Mars. Then the seventh house is the Kalatra Bhava. Kalatra Bhava is all about the other. It's the spouse. It's your long-term everything, So that's the seventh house. But it's also the house of contracts and, relationships of all kinds and businesses and, all of that. So that is the Kalatra Bhava. And of course, the Karaka for the seventh house is Venus. It has to be Venus, And then we come to the eighth house, which is a Randhar Bhava, which is a Rin, which is Rin in Sanskrit literally means how much of karmic debt you have this lifetime. We have many ways of calculating the karmic debt, this lifetime, whether it's from Lagna or from Arud Lagna, which is a auxiliary ascendant, or from moon, because after we next month, we will also read the chart from the Surya Lagna, that is from the sun, and we will read the whole chart from the moon, which is the Chandra Lagna. These three charts are the most important charts. So it's not just about reading a chart from the ascendant, but it's also reading the chart from the moon Lagna and from the Surya Lagna. And if you have planets in the eighth house from any of these three, then you have a certain karmic debt. And what is the nature of it will depend on what sign, what planet, where the Lord is, whether this debt is going to continue in the next lifetime or continue in 5 lifetime, or it's going to be like kind of shut the lid on it this lifetime. It all depends on how, what the state of that eighth house is and the Lord is, and Saturn, because the karaka of the eighth house is Saturn, Shani. So you need to figure out then what's Shani doing in your chart, because Shani is the ultimate overseer of the eighth house. Without Shani, nothing will move in that eighth house. You may say, oh, well, I've paid my debts to how many relationships, I've gone through it, I've paid my dues, everything. But no, you won't, unless Shani says, okay, it okays it, it's not going to happen. So forget it. So figure out first what Shani is up to, and then we can make a correct assessment of whether those debts or the rin in this bhava, in the Randhar bhava, are going to kind of, you're going to let go of them and finish them. So yeah. Then the ninth house is by default is a house of Sagittarius, but it's also the Dharma bhava. And we are going to study in depth, but there's a distinct difference between the fifth house and the ninth house. Even though they both appear, both the karakas are Jupiter, but there is a world of difference. Okay, so we are going to come to that. Then the 10th house is the house of Capricorn, and there are 4 karakas, and it's called the Karma Bhava. Wow, can somebody please switch off? What's going on? Yeah, thank you. Then the 10th house is the Karma Bhava, and the Karaka for that is, there are 4 of them. I've missed out Jupiter here, but it's Mercury is the primary significator or Karaka, then it's Surya, Shani, and then it's Jupiter. And then finally the Labha Bhava. Labha is Karma Bhava, literally the 10th house or Karma Bhava. Karma in Sanskrit literally means doer, what you are doing, the 10th house is all about what you're going to do. Yeah, what you're going to perform, what legacy are you going to leave on this planet? That's the 10th house. And it is distinctly different from the sign, the 11th house, which is Aquarius in the natural Naisargika bhavas, which is, even though it's Shani ruled and both of them are Shani ruled, but the 11th house is very different. It's the Labha Bhava. It's the Karaka of that is Jupiter. Labha in Sanskrit means your gains. Okay, but don't be misled by the word gains. As I mentioned last time, the 11th house does not take hostages. It is unlike the Western, it is ideally you would not want any planets in the 11th house, seriously, because the 11th house will always give you so much trouble. Planets there, barring Sun, all planets will give you equal amount of trouble. Sun is quite well off in the 11th house, and so is Ketu, the south node of the moon. It does quite all right. It's quite joyful position for Ketu, but every other planet, they are going to really give you such troubles. So it's going to really test you. It's going to really give you, you're going to be brought down. It's going to smash you up, literally. So don't get too carried away with, wow, it's Labha Bhava. Labha means like great gains and all that. Sure, it will give you, but it's going to, the amount of suffering and complete, kind of being smashed in this house, it will extract you. You will want to think like, oh my God, are these gains worth it? In my life, that is the point you will come to. And when you're ready to give up all these gains, you will come to the 12th house. You'll say, forget it. I don't want these gains. If I want between choosing from gains and between suffering, I will just give up the gains in order to have the bliss and kind of get away from the suffering. That's when you come to the 12th house. And that is the house of literally giving up. And it is indeed the house of moksha. So again, like I said, I'm going to go through all these, like, how it's the house of also the oceans, like it's the house of water, because it's a water house, because it's connected with the trikona, the 4th house and the 8th house, which is the water trine houses. So how they get connected and what are the signification, what begins in the 4th house finally has a say whether you will get moksha or not, or your liberation, your final exit from this planet. The 12th house is a big player in it. In fact, if anything, I would want to be, give me great 12th house rather than an 11th house. Forget about the gains. Trust me, as we will see charts, and at the end of this next few months, you will be like, oh yeah, I can trade my 11th house. So yeah, so far so good. We are going to come back to this at a later date. I've just put it there for to remind me of it. We have to go through that. Now, we did this. We don't need to do this. We did this last time, right? The yogas, right? And does anybody want to have any, or do you want to quickly go through them? No? Okay. So, yes, Sharat. I can't see what's going on. Can you unmute yourself if you have a question or you have something to say? Hello? No? Okay. Anyway, so basically, I won't go spend too much time there. You're better off visiting it. In the last session, we did this, all the fundamental relationships in Vedic, okay? How each one of them have a definitive, because this is this is the basic building block of how the yogas happen and what are the different kinds of yogas. Okay, so I'm not going to go too much into it, but what I will repeat one more time is the maturity age for when the planets fructify. This is kind of just to reinforce, like for sun, it's 21 to 22 years. The moon is 23 to 24. Venus maturity age is 25 to 26. Mars is 27 to 28. Which is actually ironic that most Western astrologers will think, oh, that's the Saturn return time. But actually, that's the maturity age of Mars. Yes, of course, by all means, you do get a Saturn return, but it's the maturity age of Mars. So what is Mars up to in your chart will have a big say. Then for Jupiter, it is the age 16 or 32 years of maturity. And Saturn matures at the age of 35 to 36. Mercury, 31 to 32 years. Rahu, again, I mentioned last time, if you have a debilitated planet, then the maturity will give you the result. It will fructify at that age. So if you have a Venus in Virgo, maybe you will get married around 25, 26 years of age, or something will happen around that time. If you have Venus exalted, you may get married around that time. Similarly with Rahu, if it's Rahu will stop giving you trouble if you have a, let's say, a debilitated Rahu, then it'll stop to give you trouble after the age of 42 because it has kind of reached its maturity. And similarly with Ketu, if it is in fall position, if it is in Ketu's in Gemini, then around 47 to 48, it will kind of stop troubling you. Okay. So again, I won't go into this. I've kept it for the next time. We've done, this is a little bit kind of advanced, so I will leave it at that. Let's just go with the first house, okay? The first house, as
And
we
excuse me, Sona.
yes, go on.
I have like, I don't know if I understood correctly. When you said, if, for example, you have a debilitated Venus, when the Venus cycle mature, you are going to suffer. Or you said you are going to get married, or you are going. So if it is exalted or in his own house or with friends, so something positive. But if, for example, Venus is debilitated, what is happening? Something negative or not?
No, it's not negative, but it will give you the fruit. It depends on what the Venus is up to. If there is a cancellation of debility, then it will show its time. So, but basically, that age for Venus, that age is very important, 25 to 26 for most people, because it is, after all, the maturity age of Venus. So that's when Venus starts to give you some kind of result. It depends
Okay.
on what Venus is up to in your chart, really.
Right.
I can't say, sometimes even a debilitated planet will give you very strong result. You may,
I
if
see.
you may have Venus in Virgo conjoin,
Yeah.
let's say Mercury in Virgo, and you may get married, absolutely. So there's no hard and fast rule. It depends on this is a general rule of thumb, but it always works. It's a very powerful technique. Yeah.
Right. And is it cyclic? So you will have other fruits around, your 50 years.
What do you mean? Other?
For example, you have Venus fructify around 25, 26. Does it stop to fructify? And then, there is another kind of
Yeah, there is another yes,
another
there is.
25 years.
Yes, there is another
Okay.
kind of one, but it's a little bit different. It's not, you don't use this. There are 3 different systems for planet maturity. Okay. So we will come to that. I haven't done yet
Okay.
the Naisargika
Okay.
or the actual planetary periods. We'll do that when we do the Naisargika
Okay.
planetary periods. Because, for example, after the age of 50, this is for everyone, okay? After the age of 50, you enter into the sun period, Surya period. So, so what is the sun up to in your chart? Suddenly the sun will kick in. Everything else, because you've been in your Jupiter period since the age of, I think, 32 or so, 35 or something like that. I have to check it up. Okay. So after that, till the age of 50, you're in your Jupiter period. So it's all about, like, Jupiterian things like children, running after children, building your sort of educating yourself on various skills, and your husband and family, all of that, all Jupiterian pursuits are happening. But when you hit the age 50, the sun will take over. And when the sun takes over, it depends on what sun is up to in your chart. It may be kind of in Leo in the 5th house. And then suddenly you will feel, you know what, all these years I've always wanted to learn, or I have always, as a kid, I learned piano training. I did piano training for like 15 years and then gave it up. And suddenly you'll find yourself like you are now playing piano for the local church, You see that? Yeah, so it all depends on what's up to. So a lot of people age 50 onwards to 70 is a very Surya period. It's a very sun, it's very creative. You want to, shut the lid on all the things that you have kind of done out of the sense of duty, out of the sense of like, oh, this one needs this and that one needs this, because this is like your time. So often you'll find women kind of feeling a little bit liberated, like bit bolder, and to do and pursue their own stuff, their own creativity, their own creative writing. All that is all purview of the sun. Yeah. You understand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
Thank you
we'll
very
do
much.
it at Naisargika Dashas. We will do it. We haven't even come to Dashas. We are still stuck right now in, bhavas. So, yeah. So we'll come to that. Okay. So the first house is like Mesha. It's symbolized by the ram or the goat. We did this last time, so I'm not going to do much of this. But what I have added is something interesting. This is straight sutra from the Brihat Parashara Hora Shastra. As I mentioned, I'm going to keep doing it. All references will come from my 3 core texts I use. BPHS text, and the other one is Saravali, and Brihat Samhita, and Brihat and Phaladipika. So these 4 texts, I keep going back and forth. Okay. So sometimes I'll pick up stuff from BPHS, sometimes from Saravali. It all depends on what I can find. But these are I always have these 4 texts like kind of always open on my desk, so that every time I have to create any slides or look up for references and things like that. So anyway, from the first house of the Bhava Chakra, examine the body, its form, looks, its complexion. Deha Rupam Cha Jnanam Cha Varna Chaiva Balat Balam. So basically, Deham is all about the body. Rupam is all about the form, looks, complexion. What kind are you? Tawny complexion. If you are like Gemini rising, you may have a little hint of gray green on your face, and I'm not saying you're going to be green, but it's going to have that effect on you. Okay. If you are, let's say, Scorpio rising, then you will have a little bit of like a tawniness, kind of like a Ketu color to your complexion. If you are Taurus, then by all means, you'll have a little bit of like a pale, you'll have a pale complexion, of course, I'm not saying that, oh, suddenly you'll be like all white and, that's not what I mean. But there will be certain nuances to your complexion, the rising sign will lend itself to it. So, and then the social class also, and the class and caste, including birth circumstances. So for example, if you have, let's say, sun in Aries on the ascendant, then you will have a very strong sun in terms of like a very strong father lineage, or very religious background, very sometimes maybe even royal background. That's possible. I think it was Queen Victoria. I should put up a chart next time. We can do a chart in a bit. I have it on my database. For example, Queen Victoria has got sun and moon in Lagna, in Taurus Lagna. That's very, very strong, extremely powerful, very royal lineage, because the moon is exalted in the Lagna. So again, that is all adds up to it. Okay. Then strengths and weaknesses, including the rasa or tastes. What do you like? What do your tastes buds are going to be affected with your rising sign. If you like, and the planets in there. So again, that will all play a role in the way you like. If you have Mars in Lagna, you may like a little bit of spicy food, if you have moon in Lagna, you may like salted chips, crisps. So it all, you gravitate towards certain tastes, yeah. So Deha is body, and the Rupa is form, and the looks, and Jnana is intellect, knowledge, wisdom, discrimination, prudence, recognition, memory, memorial, and fame. Basically, remember, as I said last time, ascendant also gives you fame. Okay, so if you have an exalted planet in there, and if it is connected to the ninth house or ninth lord, then that will give you fame. Complexion, again, strength and weaknesses are again fall under the same category. And joys and sorrows, if you have malefics there, it's going to give you a lot of sorrow. um, provided provided it is aspected, not aspected by um, benefics. If it is aspected by benefics, then it will change. Okay, it's not going to give you as much as problems. Nature as born and as changing from the experiences of self. So basically, all the experience what we go through and our inner nature is given by the lagna or the first house. Now this is a little bit of a sample chart I've given here. Does anybody recognize her?
Mariah Carey.
Yes, that's right. Now, there is a little bit of a discrepancy in her birth timing, but I purposely put it up because, you can all go back and think and research about her chart. What lagna is she? Can somebody tell me?
It's Aries
Right. And she's got Mars
and Saturn.
yes. And but it is aspected by Jupiter, right?
Hmm.
So, and again, Mars is in its own sign. And remember last time we did this, was it a couple of sessions ago, that if you have Mars at Tattva level, that is at the same level, that is in its own sign, in or Mool Trikona, which it is in her case, then who gives the results? Remember?
Mars.
No, Mars is in its own sign. How can James Mars give the own results if it's in its own sign?
Is it the sun? Is it the sun? Because it's exalted in Aries.
No.
No.
Remember.
Where does Mars exalt in?
Capricorn.
Capricorn.
Who's the ruler of that? What is that sound? Can somebody please stop that? Okay. Where is who's the ruler of Capricorn?
Saturn.
Saturn.
Sorry?
Saturn.
Yes.
Saturn.
So remember, we went through this, guys. You're forgetting that yes. Remember Margarita?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
forgot now.
yes.
Yeah, you
So
said.
the Saturn will give results,
Yes.
and Saturn is on her lagna. So, and it's rules, which house Saturn rules for her?
What is it? 10
10,
and
10 and
11.
11.
Yes, exactly. And even though this is Saturn is debilitated, but the debilitation is cancelled because it's Mars in its own sign. Okay, because the ruler of that's another rule we will have to see. We will have to check. So, is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Sonal,
Yeah,
just
go on.
to add, so hopefully we stay in my mind. So if Mars was on his own without Saturn, because he's on his tattva level, he would not have given any result because there is no, here is because of a Raja Yoga.
Yes, absolutely,
It's
Margarita.
because
It
of
is a
that
Raj
reason.
Yoga. Well done, you.
Yeah, because he's the Lord of the 10.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
That's why it gives a result. If, for example, it was another planet, let's say, an example, it was, For example, Mercury. No, where is it? The moon. For example, the moon.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, I don't want to be calm all the time.
Sorry, can you
Hello?
mute yourself? Yes, sorry.
So, for example, if it was the moon,
Yeah.
I mean, so Mars is a situate level. She would have got the result of the moon. So completely different result.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Totally
Okay.
different. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
clear now.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Total. We'll do loads of charts.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
worry. Okay.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah. Oops. Has it frozen? Oh God. Okay. Why do I see 3 messages here? Can somebody tell me what the message is? Because I can't, while this is going on, I cannot see any chat box. No?
Oh, someone has to leave and we're just, like
Okay,
Nicolette said she can't stay.
Okay, that's fine. Don't worry. Okay, so this is Mick Jagger's chart. We all know his chart, right?
No, we don't. I don't know it. Sorry.
Okay. Are we familiar? What Lagna is he? There are 3 different charts, guys. There is a North Indian, there is a South Indian, and there is the East Indian chart.
I'm more familiar with the North Indian. So is a Taurus
Taurus.
Lagna.
The
Okay.
Taurus Lagna.
Taurus Lagna.
Okay.
With the
Okay.
moon.
So Taurus Lagna, yeah? And what planets does he have there?
Saturn and the moon.
Yes.
An
and-
exalted moon. An exalted moon.
Absolutely. That's pretty brilliant, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah. And who, yeah. So you see, that's quite, and can you see that Saturn and moon? That's a big Raj Yoga
Oops.
because
Yeah.
Saturn rules which house in his chart? Can you tell me?
9 and 10. No, so really, no.
Yes, absolutely. You're
Yeah.
right. 9th house and the 10th
And
house.
10.
Those
Yeah.
are the beautiful houses. 9th house is a trine house, which is very auspicious. And the 10th house is one of the highest angular houses. So lords of both those houses are in his Lagna. That's a great Raj Yoga, don't you think?
Mm.
And it's with an exalted moon.
Mm.
And the other Lagna Lord, can somebody answer where's the other Lagna Lord? Venus.
Venus, what is Venus? Venus
In house.
in the 4th. Yeah.
In Leo.
Yes.
Mm.
And Venus in the 4th house has
It's
got,
very strong.
yes, it's got great Digbala. If we haven't done Digbala yet, I'm going to do that next time, or after we finish all the houses, we will begin which planet loves, well, what is a big blessing, coming from what, when a certain placements of planets land up. So Venus in the 4th house is in great strength. So we all know about his Rolling Stones and his legacies and all his women and whole host of them, right? Yes?
Yes.
Good. Excellent. So this is a very strong example of a very strong, Lagna. Okay, let's move to the second house. Oops. Okay. Okay, we'll do this one little bit of a practice chart. Maybe we should come back to these charts, okay? Let's move forward with the second house. Now, what does the second house mean? One of the significations of the second house, is that it is the house of, it's a Dhana Bhava, it's called. It's also called a Hari Bhava. Can you see the Lord Shiva's bull here?
Mm.
Yeah. The second house has got, because it is the house of Taurus, it is the sign of the bull is very closely linked with the bull, um, and the Taurus Vrishabha, the sign Vrishabha, which is Taurus, has got great it's bull basically, and the bull
Violent.
is
Right.
a favored
Not
vehicle
feeling good.
of.
Not feeling good.
Sorry, can
Sorry, don't worry.
James, can you please not? Yeah. Um, and the bull is one of the favored vehicles of Lord Shiva. It's called the Nandi. So again, so the second house is the Karaka of the second house is Jupiter. Of course, Venus is the ruler, no doubt, but Jupiter is the primary Karaka. So, if, for example, if you have, let's say, the Lagna Lord going into the second house, you do, and if it is exalted, let's say, then don't get too happy, because what it means is that you will not just have to see like, oh, what is it's an exalted planet in the second house, but you will also have to see, where is Jupiter, what is Jupiter up to. If Jupiter is in like debility in the eighth house, then it's not going to be any joy, is there? Because Jupiter is going to be powerless to give you the fortune of the second house as promised by an exalted planet there. Does everybody is clear on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that is very fundamental to every way. This is very distinctively different to the Vedic, sorry, to the Western astrological ways, because here we don't get very excited if there is some exaltation or thing going on. You have to see what the Karaka is up to. And the second house, the Karaka is Jupiter. And of course, the secondary Karaka is, you can take it to Venus, but I'm not going to stretch it. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, go on.
If Jupiter is in the eighth, it's making a strong aspect to the second. So doesn't that help the second?
Up till a point, it's not about the aspect, it's about how strong the Jupiter is in giving the results, in supporting it. That's the main thing we are going to see. Jupiter, it depends on what the Jupiter is, again, like I said, what house it rules and all that. I'm not going to just say that, oh, it's terrible and all that. It depends on what the state of the Jupiter is, but by and large, the general rule of thumb is that you need to see the Karaka. Ideally, you want the Karaka to be strong in a trine house or on a Kendra. You want the Karaka to be strong. So even if the let's say the planet in that second house doesn't do too well, or it's having a rough time, or it's with a malefic, but if the Karaka is strong, it's going to give you a very good result. If Jupiter is strong, it's going to give you excellent result. Yeah. So Karaka is everything in Jyotish. It's everything. It's literally, it's literally everything. Okay. So you have to absolutely consider that, So again, Anthony, I don't know if maybe if Jupiter is aspecting the second house, yeah, maybe it will do good. It depends on, maybe it's an exalted Jupiter in the eighth house, but exalted Jupiter, that means you're Sagittarius Lagna. That's, even though now that's a classic case, by the way, Anthony, since you opened the Pandora's box, if you're a Sagittarius Lagna and you have an exalted Jupiter, and I have clients who have that, yeah, and you would think like, wow, Lagna Lord exalted, how good is that? But then you want to see what the Karaka of the eighth house is. Who's the Karaka of the eighth house?
Saturn.
Excellent, Margarita. Excellent. Yes. So then you want to see what Shani is up to, And but if Shani is in a Kendra or in a kind of like a good position, then at least he will be able, he's strong enough to kind of take the edge of, because Jupiter in the 8th house is not a good placement, and if it is retrograde, oh dear, God help you, really, we would need a lot of prayers for that. Okay. Is everyone clear on that?
So,
So
no,
what does it mean when a planet is retrograde?
Who's this?
Yeah, hi. I'm sorry. This is Sharath.
Okay. Hi, Sharad. Well, you know what? I, retrograde is a very, it's not a very straightforward concept. Okay. First off, there are many ways to read retrogradations of planets. It depends on, what planet it is, and whether it's before the sun, after the sun, how far from the sun. There are so many, many, many factors. Okay, but the general rule of thumb I'm going to give you, it's very, very general. Um, you know, is that a retrograde benefic, you want them in Kendra or a Trikon houses, okay? And they typically will give you, sort of give you a result of the opposite sign. Now, again, I'm going to qualify that. Please, one rule does not make up a whole picture. You have to see various factors. And I'm digressing a bit here because you asked me the question, but general rule is that ideally you want benefics, if they are retrogrades, in nice houses like 159 or one first house lagna, or the 4th house or the 7th house or the 12th house. The 10th house. Okay. So, but if the malefics are retrograde, then oh dear, again, like I said, we are not going to go there. But you don't want benefics by and large to be retrograde and in Dushtana houses, which is malefic houses, 6, 8, and 12. You don't want that. Ideally, you don't want that. So anyway, that's, like I said, there are many, many factors that will play. But one thing doesn't make up a story. I'll have to see many things to make an assessment of how terrible it is or how bad it is. Okay.
Sonal,
Yes.
say you got a benefic in sort of Upachaya house, say the 6, isn't it? Doesn't it get better as it gets older? Although it's malefic, it gets better as it gets older. Yeah.
Yes.
For example, so
Yes.
there's
Yeah. True. Yeah, it will.
okay.
But
And another thing,
even
Karen,
if you have a malefics, see, if you have malefics in Kendra, like 1, 4, 7, and 10th house, you want the malefics to be not very strong, you see. And if you have benefics in Kendra, you want them to be very strong,
I thought if you had a benefic, sorry, I thought you had a malefics in a Kendra, it was good because the Kendras demand action, and the malefic planets demand action. You can't rest on your laurels with malefics. You have to act on them.
No,
I thought that-
no, it's not so hard and fast. It's not like that. The trouble with having malefics in Kendras is it's going to give you a lot of trouble, and it's going to give you trouble because planets. We'll come to that, James. Is that okay? Let me just
Okay, and
proceed.
another thing, just quickly, you said the Kararaka of a house, but what about the ruler of that house, the ruler of the sign on the house is strong? Will that counteract things if the Karaka was weak, if you see what I mean?
Yeah, yes, up till a point.
Yeah.
But Karaka will have the final say. The Karaka has to be strong.
The Karaka is always stronger than the ruler of the house, yeah?
Yes, I think it will take a lot of, I would say it'll take precedence over the ruler of the house. Of course, the ruler of the house will have a say, no doubt about that,
Yeah.
but the Karaka will have equal or more say sometimes. Well, let's say if your ruler of the house is like in a 12th house and debilitated, but if the Karaka is a little bit strong, then you may not feel the brunt of that debilitation. Does that make
Yes.
sense?
So the karaka always is the prime significator of the house. The karaka.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Of
And
course,
not-
the
not-
Lord is, but the karaka is absolutely very
Okay.
important. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, okay.
so here, this is the second house we are talking about. From the second house, we examine what do we see here for all these things: wealth, capital, as opposed to rin or debt. Now we are not going to see debt, how much debts we owe a bank, a million quid. We are not going to see that in the second house. We are obviously going to see it in the eighth house, not in the second house. But what our assets, what is our wealth in terms of cash, and all that, in terms of like how many yachts we own, all that will fall, which is kind of can be transferable to a capital gains or money, not gains but money. I can't use the word gains really for the second house. It's more to do with like movable and immovable kind of properties, and or other wealth, which can generate wealth or will give you wealth. So that is the signification of the second house. And different interests. So if you have like loads of money, funds and maturity bonds, and mutual funds and bonds, and then you're accruing a large amount of interest on it, trust funds and all, then that will all come in the second house, because it's earning you a good hefty wealth, income. So, and dhanya is corn, grains. Literally, it's to do with food. Okay. Then kutumba and family and gotra. Gotra is a very Indian concept. Gotra means it links your lineage to a particular rishi or a sage. And we always, in any puja, in any havan, any kind of religious sort of ceremony, if we have to get like for appeasing, let's say Rudra Abhishekam we do, or any puja we do, we have to know what our gotra is. Okay, women have it, children have it, everybody has it. It basically connects us to the rishi, literally. And so we always need to know the gotra. And then the family, so that all falls under the second house purview. Then the death also, because second house is a maraka house. Remember we did that last time. And so that is also about death. And friend or friendless, being lonely, that is all part of the second house. Heavy duty malefics in the second house, ouch. You may want to figure out what about your status in terms of whether you're going to feel alone in this planet or not. There will be a little bit of periods of that. Dhatu is, again, I'm not going to cover this dhatu mula jiva. I skipped the slide last time, just a few moment ago. We are going to come back to that, okay? Because it's like a separate, I'm going to digress on that. So I don't want to go, I want to keep going till we come to the end.
Quick question.
Yes, go on.
Family refers to the family you grew up in, your extended family, the family you are a parent in now, or what? Specifically,
Yes.
What is family here?
Family that you grew up in, family that your mother, father, early family, sometimes it can even mean, your married family, but less so, but it's predominantly the early family that you grew up with. Okay?
That includes grandparents, aunts, uncles, or a smaller family.
They are, you could stretch it by and large, but they are grandparents, and grandmother, let's say, will be fourth from the fourth. Again, you know what, this is bhavat bhavam. We will have to come back to that again after we cover all the houses. Just suffice to know that family will come into the second house. I know, Anthony, you're going to be a little, little bit impatient about this, but the thing is that Bhavat Bhavam is a very kind of, it will give you like and it's applicable across the board, especially in Indian horror. We always use Bhavat Bhavam. Bhavat Bhavam is a concept that when we see like second house, what's in the second from the second, so for example, fourth house is the house of the mother, Matrikaraka, Matri Bhava. Then what is the grandmother? Then it'll be the fourth from the fourth will be the grandmother. Okay, the mother's mother. Okay.
My question was more, I just wanted to be clear what family referred to. Like, you're from India, so you probably have family on several continents and.
No, not.
But you might, someone might have family, here.
Okay,
in a
I
different
think what
country.
she meant is, from my understanding, when she meant family, it meant that the family you grew up with. So it's like your father, your mother, your brother, or the sisters.
So the more
it's
immediate family.
yeah, close-knit family.
Okay,
Like
thank
your
you.
immediate family.
Yeah.
So when she talked about Bhavat Bhavam, it's particularly has to do with identifying a particular member, like fourth from fourth. And when you're talking about, let's say you want to identify, or you need to predict something with your father-in-law. So then you identify a particular house which is associated with it, and then you look into the prediction and so on.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Is that correct, Sona?
Yes. By and large, yes.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Anthony, for the moment, we'll just take it as a broader one, like family, not specific family members and all that, because specific family members, we will have to see like for siblings, we'll see the third house, okay? And the elder sibling will see the 11th. So, Anthony, it gets a little bit kind of complicated, okay? But it's not, once you know it. So for the moment, we'll just say by and large the family, okay? But other significations of the second house is, I would also add another signification of the second house. I don't know if I've given here. Oops. One sec. Yeah, here. Is also your speech, your learning, your right eye, letters and documents, and also your small networks and groups of people, that has a, like, it's kind of like groups of, like, your like friendly circle group and things like that. Remember, if we see here, Parashara does mention friend or friendless. So that means he's talking about groups of, close group, small groups of friends and family kind of situations there, as opposed to the 11th house, which is like huge groups and large groups of people and networks and all that. We are not talking of big networks here. We are talking of small network, close-knit network of groups of close friends and, things like that. Does that make sense, everyone?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So now the Naisargika, house, second house is Vrishabha, Taurus, and it is a fixed sign, and it starts with Kritika Nakshatra and ending with Mrigashira Nakshatra. So if you take the map all the nakshatras to the house, first house, second house, it will start from Kritika ending with Mrigashira, and it's symbolized by the bull. As I mentioned, Nandi is Lord Shiva's great vehicle, and it is, when we talk of Taurus, it's a very, very auspicious, very sattvic sign, very sattvic Rashi. It's also the rising sign, Lagna of Lord Krishna. So again, Taurus is has got great significations in terms of, like, beneficence, and it shows prosperity, abundance. I think this is from Phaladipika, and this is from Saravali. I'm not sure. I forgot to write it. But it also deals with Vitta, Vidya, learning, Annapana, riches, food, drinks, bhukti, eating, right eye, if you may have malefics in the second house, there may be issues with right eye, or aspects of malefics to the second house. You may have problems with the right eye, the face, letter or document, speech. This is a huge one. The food you eat, the speech, the way you talk. If you have Ketu in the second house, ouch, you may have trouble with speech. Now, this may not always be true, but there is sometimes you may be like tongue tied. You may be like, oh my God, there may be some kind of little problems with speech. Again, Kutumba, family has come back again here. And these are all the significations of the second house. It is a Hari Bhava. Hari is like Vishnu. It is one of the great Vishnu Hari. So it's basically talks about sustenance and things like that. Okay. Food you eat will sustain you. The money you get will sustain you. It's all about a drive for food. Okay. Just get it. Food and speech is the two bumper stickers of the second house, Dhana Bhava. Okay. Okay. Somebody had something to say.
I was wondering if Ketu was transiting through that house, the second house, if that could create, if that would create like a pattern, a halting pattern of speech.
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. You may even go through some kind of loss. It depends on the state of, what planets there are in the second house. You may have some kind of a setback financially because second house is that. You may even
Interesting.
You may even do something really wonderful. Like you may think like, hang on, let me just change my entire diet. And then you may just go on this like 6-month diet, which is kind of drastic, vegan diet or something, kind of completely crazy, and, so those are all, because that's altering a huge pattern, and Ketu will just get you to give up something or the other, because wherever Ketu goes by transit, it will always get you to give up something,
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so these are the effects of the Dhana Bhava. Now, I think, look at this, we are 6:30 and we have barely moved, Do you think we should continue this another time? We'll do another example.
Yes.
And then we'll continue this next time. Is that okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, but we'll quickly go through this. Now, the Lord of the second house will, if it is in an angle, that is angle as in Kendra, angular, or in a trine house, he will promote one's wealth or monetary state. Okay. Should it be in a 6th, 8th, or 12th, financial conditions will decline. Okay. A benefic in Dhana Bhava will give wealth, while a malefic instead will destroy wealth. Now, please don't panic. Don't say, oh my God, my second Lord is in the 6th house. It's going to go down the drain. We don't know, we don't know. It depends on what kind of state it is in. I know friend of mine, she's got Mars conjoined Rahu. Mars, Mars, Mangal with Rahu with Shani. 3 malefics in the second house. Okay. She's worked all her life practically, done very well financially. So she does have health issues in terms of eating disorders, indeed. And she's perpetually wanting to lose weight. Yes, indeed. So that is, but destroy wealth, no. So we have to see a lot of things, okay? So one thing, again, like I said, please, this is a general rule of thumb. We will have to delve as we go deeper and deeper in. We have to kind of unpick on which sutra, which significations will take precedence. So please don't panic and say, oh my God, we are doomed. But it is always good to know the rules, because once you get the rules, you will be able to make a very informed assessment about the whole chart. Now, if one will be wealthy if Guru or Brihaspati, that is Jupiter, is in the Dhanabhava, in the second house, or is the Lord of Dhanabhava, or is with Mangal. So that is kind of interesting, what Parashara has to say, that it is with Mangal. So yeah, it's so if you have this, and if it is with Mangal, then maybe it will take the sting away from being in the 6th, 8th or 12th house. If Dhanabhava is in Labhasthana, Labha is 11th house, while the Lord of Labha is in Dhana, that is basically the second house and the 11th house have got connected, then wealth will be acquired by the native. Now this opposed to you got family wealth. Okay, so there's a two distinction between them. If the second house and the 11th house have some kind of a connection, that means the native himself will be able to earn through his own ways, through his own enterprise. He's going to make an income, create wealth. Okay, so please, again, and if these two lords may join in an angle or a trine, then it's fantastic. Okay, who raised the hand? Sharad?
Yeah, hi, Sonal. It's
Yes.
regarding the third question.
Yeah.
So you said associated with Mangal. So can you please explain on that? Like why particularly Mars is being quoted by Parashara?
Because Mangal is the overseer of our wealth, along with Surya. Okay, Mangal is our deity for our Bhuloka, that is our existence on planet Earth. And Mangal also rules property, real estate property, where we live. All of that is also Mangal's purview. So Mangal is a big giver of wealth, along with Surya and along with Jupiter. These three are instrumental in giving wealth. Of course, other planets will also give wealth, but these three are the key: Jupiter, Surya, and Mangal. So if you have a Guru Mangal yoga, that is Jupiter along with Mars, then it's absolutely fantastic. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you.
We'll see example charts. Okay, I think we may not have time. Let's do one chart and then we will finish, because we have loads to go through. Let's see how. Wow, okay, this is fantastic. Whose chart is this?
Bill Gates.
Yes, lovely. Now somebody tell me what's his lagna?
Gemini.
Gemini.
Okay, excellent. Now, if can someone say where's the lagna lord and whom is it with?
In
Beside
conjunction with
In
Mars,
fourth house, Virgo with
Hi
Mars.
guys, somebody's switched their thing on. Who is that? Yeah, thank you. Okay, this is the last chart and we'll stop at that. But Sharad, was it Sharad who asked me this question about Mangal? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now this is good. This is going to answer your question, Sharad. But let's everyone in the group please tell me, because this is an exercise not just in where's the lagna lord, what aspect and all that, but also a little bit about, you will see the relationship and the drishti. Okay, so here, where's Mercury, the
In the
lagna
fourth.
lord?
Fourth house, Virgo.
Is that exalted or what?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Excellent. And where is the second lord? Chandra.
It's in 10th.
Moon.
It's in the 10th house.
Excellent, Anthony. And where is the 11th Lord, Mars?
It's in the
Mars
4th
is with
conjunct.
Mercury, huh?
Mhm.
It's in the 4th conjunct Lagnesh.
Yes. And Lagnesh, the Lagna Lord, is exalted. Can you see that?
Mhm.
Mercury is absolutely exalted in the 4th house. Aspected. Now, can somebody tell me Mercury and Mars, Mangal in Virgo, will be aspecting what all signs? Rashi Drishti?
First,
It'll
4th,
aspect the
7th, and
10th house
10th.
moon.
Yeah. So that's brilliant, isn't it? So the Lord of the second house, Moon, is aspecting the Lord of the 11th. Yes.
Mhm.
In the 4th
First and
house.
4th.
Yes, first and fourth. And the Lagnesh, an exalted Mercury. So the dictum of Parashara that we just saw is absolutely clear, right? And we do know he's one of the richest people on the planet. Yeah. But there is also Mars also rules the which house? Mars rules Aries, which is the 11th house, and which other house it rules?
Scorpio.
The
Six.
sixth
And in this
house,
case, it's
yeah.
the 6th house.
Yes, exactly. And guess what? Is there a parivartana? Remember, Rahu's Mool Trikona sign is
Virgo.
excellent. And Mars sign is, own sign Swakshetra is,
Scorpio.
yes. So there is an parivartana too. Can you see that?
Mhm.
So there may at some point may have, because it's gone in the 6th house, there may have been some kind of loss and things like that for him. But bear in mind that Rahu rules the very auspicious 9th house. Can everybody see where is Aquarius?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the 9th house is very, very auspicious. Or 9th Lord is extremely auspicious for Bill Gates. So even by Parivartana, actually, he is still going to make loads of money. His fortune will just keep opening up and keep opening up. Yeah. And he's a, and I mean, there's many other factors as well, you know, an exalted Saturn and all that, but we won't go into that. But is everybody getting the idea that how the strength and the Dhana Bhava involved with the Lagna Lord and the Lagna and the 11th Lord can give you such great vast amount of wealth? Is everybody getting it?
Yes.
Yeah. So do you see how clear cut his chart is? Absolutely clear. This has been rectified by my guru. So actually, if you go on the it's by a minute or two, it's been rectified, you know. Yeah, because otherwise by sidereally we get Cancer Lagna, which is not, doesn't really quite fit, you know. So is everyone okay with that? Any questions? Do you guys want to do one more chart?
Yes, please.
Okay. Is that James?
Yes. Sorry, is the Dhanabha the second house ruler? I'm a bit confused. Is Dhanabha a second house ruler? Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Look, I don't have, let me just go back a bit. Let me just see if I have another one. We did Ernest Hemingway. Let's do Greta Garbo, okay? Did we do her? No.
No, no.
Okay, let's do Greta and then we'll finish here, okay? Because
Mhm.
I got to go out and party. Well, not really, because we are in lockdown. So, yeah. Okay. So what's her Lagna?
Taurus again.
Excellent.
Mm.
And where's the Lagna Lord?
Venus.
In her
Third
third.
Yeah,
and 12th.
exactly. And what else can you tell me about her second house? Where's her second house?
Mercury is in the 4th.
Yes,
Yep.
beautiful. And whom
With,
is it with? Rahu
with Rahu. Yeah.
and
It's
Shani.
conjunct Ragu and it's in Parivartana with Sun.
Yes, absolutely beautiful. And what else can you tell me about that fourth house? Is that like a huge Raj Yoga, that connection between the the second house, second lord, and Jupiter? There is no connection, but they are kendra to each other, right? But the lord of the 10th house, Rahu, if you take, and
Yep.
Shani, they are
Yep.
aspecting the second lord, right?
Yep.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Now, what else is what is a strong aspect? Shani is absolutely superb. So please have a look at this. In spite of having how many malefics? Somebody want to count the malefics there?
3?
Exact.
No, 4 actually. Yeah. 4
Exactly.
malefics. Yeah.
So that creates a Sarpa Yoga. In Sanskrit,
Mm.
Sarpa Yoga, we already did what yoga is, but Sarpa means the snakes, the serpent's energy is very strong in her chart. And this is a definitive problem. Rahu, Ketu, Shani, and Mangal. Okay, no matter what, even if Shani is a Raj Yoga Karaka for Taurus people, because it rules the beautiful houses of the 9th house and the 10th house. It's very strong, that Shani. It's like later we will learn that it is what do you call Sasa Mahapurush Yoga, when you have an exalted any of the 5 planets exaltation or in its own sign or Mool Trikona, it is called the Mahapurush Yogas. Okay, but that is mark of great saints, but literally translated. Of course, she was no saint, but she was iconic in her contribution in terms of she was like the tragic, she could do all kinds of tragic roles. And in Hollywood, she created what a great name for herself. She left such a great legacy, and you can make out that all that drama and all that passion of tragic roles, it's Ketu Shani, right? Doesn't have resonances of Shani? I mean, she could deal with that kind of roles and intrigue. She did the Matahari and all kinds of like a really upset courtesan in, I think, one of her films. I think that's where this picture is from. So that's all that Rahu, Mercury, Ketu, and Shani themes. So you see how kind of in spite of having all these malefics, but she does have that Jupiter in Lagna. That is one of the biggest blessing you can have. That's why I keep saying that you need one. That's why Parashara keeps going on, that Jupiter is absolutely fantastic. And Mercury in the 4th house, even though it's in a Maranasthana, that is, it's in its dying position. But again, we won't cover that, okay? We will cover the Digbalas and the Maranasthana placements after we finish all the 12 houses. So is everybody happy with that? Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. So any ideas when next time you guys want to do?
I'm not good for Monday. Sonal, I can't do Monday because I'm doing a lot of things on Monday night,
Okay.
So another day.